Anna Monroe came into the world on a rainy October night, born in the hallway of a run-down hospital in East Milwaukee. Her mother, Celia, groaned through her contractions without anesthesia, and her father, Marvin, paced barefoot in the hallway, too embarrassed to admit they couldn't afford a cab fare home, let alone the hospital bill. Her first crib was a laundry basket padded with old sweaters. They couldn't afford formula, so Celia nursed Anna until she was nearly 2. But through the fog of poverty, one thing stood clear. Anna's mind was razor sharp from the start. By age 5, she was reading signs on the bus routes. By 7, she was correcting her teacher's grammar. Books were her escape and her fuel. Her father, a janitor at the local library, brought home damaged books nobody claimed, while other kids watched cartoons. Anna pored over encyclopedias and illustrated science manuals. Her favorite was a children's anatomy guide. She memorized the human skeleton before she lost her baby teeth. "Mom, why do bones have marrow?" she once asked. Celia, half asleep from a night job, blinked. "I don't know, baby. But maybe one day you'll find out and tell me." That night, Anna wrote on a sticky note and stuck it beside her bed. "I will be a doctor. Not want to be, will be." And somehow she believed it. Middle school was rough. Anna wore the same 3 shirts on rotation. Her hair was never styled, and while other girls dreamt of prom and popularity, she dreamt of white coats and microscopes. When puberty hit, so did the mockery. Her body developed late, and she was gangly, awkward and all knees. The boys called her Bones. The girls ignored her. The teachers pitied her. But none of it stuck. She joined the science club and volunteered at the local clinic. She listened to nurses talk about triage and medical codes. When she won the state science fair with a project on the circulatory system, her schoolmates clapped politely. But in their eyes, she saw she was the weird one. Still, the scholarships came. She got into the University of Wisconsin-Madison on a full ride, majoring in praying. Her parents wept when she left. Her father handed her a note tucked in a Bible. "When you get tired, remember some of us were born to build ladders out of the things others throw away." She taped that note to her dorm wall. College wasn't the movie version of independence. Anna worked 3 jobs tutoring, waiting tables, and data entry just to cover what the scholarship didn't. She slept for hours a night, sometimes less during exam weeks. There were days she went without a full meal. But worse than hunger was failure. In her sophomore year, she failed organic chemistry E. The news shattered her. She stared at the grade like it had punched her in the gut. Med schools don't take students who fail core subjects, she thought. She considered changing majors. Her advisor even suggested it. "You're clearly brilliant, Anna. Maybe a path in public health or research?" "No," Anna said simply. "I'm not done trying." She retook the class the following semester and passed. Barely. Then she studied harder, got tutoring, cried into her textbooks, and made the dean's list for her final 2 years. And that didn't date. Not seriously. There was Matt, an artist with gentle hands, who made her laugh, but he wanted a woman available for spontaneous road trips. Then Theo, a med student who seemed perfect until he said he could never marry a woman who'd prioritize career over family. After him, she stopped trying. Her friends began pairing off. One by one, wedding invitations rolled in like seasonal mail. She hung them on her dorm wall, then in her apartment fridge, and every time she sent a gift, she smiled even when her chest ached. Her mother called often. "You'll meet someone. Just focus on God's time." Anna wasn't sure anymore if God's time included her love life, but she did know this. Medicine wasn't a phase. Anna applied to med school 3 times. First time, she was rejected everywhere. Not enough volunteer hours. Not enough experience. Second time to interviews. no offers. Third time, she took out loans, attended expensive seminars, rewrote her personal statement 10 times, and finally got in. By then, she was 28. Most of her friends had kids. Some were on their second child. She walked into orientation surrounded by fresh-faced 22-year-olds. She was older, more tired, and often broke, but she was there. Med school was brutal, and often went days without real sleep. Her first cadaver lab made her throw up. Her second clinical rotation had her holding the hand of a 12-year-old boy while he died from leukemia. She never forgot his eyes. During residency interviews, one doctor asked, "At your age, are you considering how you'll balance work and family?" She smiled without blinking. "I've been balancing survival for 20 years. This is the easy part." But even then, life wasn't done testing her. In her third year of med school, Anna's father died. Massive stroke. He passed alone in his one-bedroom apartment. She found out through a neighbor who remembered her name. She flew home and arranged the funeral. Her mother, now dealing with early-stage dementia, barely recognized the guests. Anna broke down in her childhood room, surrounded by empty bookshelves and memories of hunger. She wanted to quit. Just for a moment, she wanted the pain to stop. But her father's note was still in her wallet. Build ladders out of things others throw away. She returned to school, graduated a year later, topped N% of her class. Then came residency. Residency at Ridgeway Memorial Hospital in Pennsylvania was a battlefield mentally, physically, emotionally. Anna, now 34, was older than most of the new interns. Her residents treated her with subtle condescension, more annoyed by her maturity than impressed. She often pulled the grueling Q3 shifts every third night on call. Her feet blistered, her eyes burned, her hands trembled as she inserted ears in frail patients at 2 a.m. On one particularly cruel winter night, she had worked 18 hours straight. Snow blanketed the roads. Her shift ended, but she stayed to help a cold blue case a man who collapsed in there with his daughter screaming beside him. He died, and Anna held the daughter after, her own scrubs soaked in blood and grief. When Anna finally left, she slid on black ice, hit a stop sign, and crashed into a snowbank. Her ankle fractured in 3 places. It took 3 surgeries and 5 months of rehab. Her contract wasn't renewed. Her hospital, it was deactivated before her cast was even off. Anna lay in a rehab center for weeks. No job, no income, no prospects. She was 35 and drifting. Anna moved into her Aunt Martha's basement in Rochester, New York. Martha was a retired nurse who lived modestly but believed deeply in second chances. "You are not a failure," she said, placing tea in Anna's hand. "You are in between." Anna cried daily for 2 weeks. Then she opened her textbooks again, replied for residency, made dozens of cold calls, rebuilt her CV. One day, out of the blue, a small regional hospital in upstate New York called back. "We reviewed your file," the director said. "You've had a rough path, Dr. Monroe, but I think you still have something to offer." She started there at 36, no fanfare, no applause, but with grit. At 39, Anna had become a fully licensed, board-certified physician. She lived alone in a small third-floor walk-up. No pets, no plants, just books, a laptop, and a French press. Her neighbors barely knew her name. She rotated between her day shifts and overnight emergencies. And on Sundays, she walked to a diner, ate pancakes, and read poetry. Sometimes she wondered if she had waited too long, if love had passed her by while she was chasing textbooks and trauma charts. And yet a voice within whispered, "You haven't seen your harvest yet." Tony Walker walked into her life on a Tuesday afternoon. Anna was called in for a consult. A trauma patient, a teenage girl, had been stabilized after a car wreck, but refused to eat or speak. The attending requested a psych evaluation. Tony, the trauma counselor assigned to the case, was already there. He wasn't flashy. He wore corduroy and brown shoes, and his glasses were smudged. He had calm in his eyes, the kind you wanted nearby during a panic attack. He nodded politely. "Dr. Monroe, I've heard of you. You're the one who stays late for the psych cases." Anna chuckled. "Or maybe I just like paperwork." He smiled. "I don't believe that." That conversation lasted 12 minutes. Their second one lasted 2 hours, over coffee. Their third turned into dinner. Tony was divorced with a teenage daughter who lived in another state. He didn't pretend to be perfect. He told them early on, "I'm slow to trust and bad at texting, but I show up." And he did. He brought soup when she had the flu, read articles she sent, showed up for her hospital fundraiser, even though he hated public events. He never once asked her why she wasn't married. Instead, he said, "You're doing sacred work." That kind of life takes longer to build. Anna was startled by how seen she felt. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to want something more than just her dream. She allowed herself to want love. Tony's daughter Aria didn't take to Anna. "She's not my mom," she said sharply when they met. Anna didn't argue. Instead, she asked if Aria wanted hot chocolate or tea. Tony noticed her restraint. "Thank you," he said later. "You didn't have to try." "I'm not trying," Anna replied. "I'm just not leaving." But it wasn't easy. There were tense dinners. Aria once told Anna she was too old to play stepmom. Then one day, Aria was in a car crash. Anna, on call that night, recognized the name on the intake report. She ran to Beer. 3 cracked ribs, mild concussion, no internal bleeding. Anna stayed by Aria's side, even after her shift ended. Tony arrived hours later to find Anna reading to his sleeping daughter from a book on horses. The next day, Aria looked at her and said, "You can stay." Tony proposed not with a ring, but with words. They were on the porch, sipping tea. "Marry me, Anna, not because you need to. Not because it's time, but because I want to spend my days watching you do exactly what you were born to do." Anna stared at him, quiet. Tears gathered. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes." The wedding was small. Just 30 people in a garden with autumn leaves drifting down like gold confetti. Anna wore a satin dress with sleeves that reminded her of the coats she once imagined wearing as a child. Her mother, now in assisted living, couldn't remember Tony's name, but she beamed as Anna walked down the aisle, whispering, "You look just like your grandmother." Tony cried. Aria read a poem she'd written herself, ending it with, "Some women arrive late to love, not because they're slow, but because they were building a house strong enough to hold it." After the ceremony, someone asked Anna why she didn't cry. She smiled. "I cried for 10 years straight. This is my hallelujah." 6 months after the wedding, Anna was invited to speak at a Women in Medicine symposium in Boston. She almost turned it down. "I don't have a fancy title," she told Tony. But he looked at her like she held the universe in her palms. "You have a story. That's more powerful than 1,000 letters behind your name." So she went. She stood on stage in a navy blue suit, hands slightly shaking, and told the audience about library books, failing organic chemistry, crash landings, and holy resurrections. She didn't cry until the standing ovation. A week later, she received a letter from a young girl in the audience. "Dr. Monroe, I've been scared because I don't have money and I'm starting late. But hearing you speak made me believe that maybe I can still make it. Thank you for making me feel like it's not too late." Anna framed it. At 42, Anna became director of community health at the same regional hospital where she had once been the rebound hire. She opened 2 free clinics, trained midwives, advocated for better maternal care in underserved neighborhoods. She adopted a rescue dog named Rufus, took Arya shopping for college dorm supplies, kept her dad's Bible by her bed, and every Sunday she and Tony made pancakes, played jazz, and danced in the kitchen like kids who had just learned love was a safe thing. People no longer asked her why she waited so long to marry. Instead, they asked how she managed to build a life that felt so whole. Her answer? I didn't wait. I lived. And when love came, it didn't rescue me. It joined me. One day, during a speaking engagement at her old high school, Anna stood before a sea of young girls, many of them from the same struggling neighborhoods. Same tiny kitchens, same library corners. She looked out and said, "There will be years you'll feel like you're behind. There will be days when everyone else seems to be running ahead, marrying, building, thriving, and you'll wonder if you missed the road. But listen to me, you are not late. You are becoming. Don't trade your fire for comfort. Don't rush what takes time to grow. The world doesn't need another rushed life. It needs your becoming. And if you keep walking, you'll look up one day and realize your life is everything you once prayed for." The room was silent. Then someone began to clap, then another, then all. Anna walked off stage with tears in her eyes and the softest, deepest smile. In her home office, beneath her diplomas and beside her waistcoat, Anna kept one worn piece of paper. Her father's note. Build ladders out of things others throw away. She had done it. She had climbed. Not quickly, not easily, but with fire, with faith, with the quiet certainty that purpose was worth the price. And at the top of that ladder, she didn't just find success. She found herself. The end. Please support our channel by subscribing and sharing our stories with your family and friends.